Da, 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 da. Hello, guys. Sorry to be late. Let me just open the waiting room. Had some computer trouble, but should be up and ready soon. In the meantime, let's see how everybody else is doing. You guys all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's life without a little trouble sometimes, right? I tell you. Almost solved the camera issue, but in the meantime, we will have to go with the sounds of my voice. All right. So we're supposed to be diving into Illustrator today. Everybody has Illustrator?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask a question about Illustrator.
About Illustrator, okay.
I wanted to know if when I download.
Hold on, you have feedback. Mute one of your devices that you have me on.
I'm using my phone at the moment.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I downloaded it, but I'm only going to have a 7-day free trial. So after that, what should I do?
Oh, there's a simple solution to that one. Just call Mr. Technician and he will solve all your problems. All right?
Okay, sir.
All right. So, how much people are here? Only a few. Everybody else, it's just their names. So I'm waiting for everybody else to attend. Yep. I see Mr. Cooper just coming in. Miss Cooper. Let's open Illustrator in the meantime and let's take a look on the handout. Oh, Lord. Can I share screen? Let's see if this should work, but this is going to be rather old school. The original share screen method. You guys can see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. All right, so if we look what is available today for DDM. We don't need any files today, actually. There you go, DDM 2021. There you go. Right, so if we looked for on exercise 3, let's maximize this. We don't need any, hold on, is this a sketch? Actually, yes, we do need a file. Yes, it is a sketch. So the sketch should be in the folder. Yes, it is. Right. There we go. Did everybody download the sketch? Not yet. Let's call this sketch so that it's a bit shorter.
Sir, Illustrator isn't downloading on my laptop.
Oh, so I'm not alone in the computer challenges today. All right, so here is the deal. This first exercise is rather simple, right? Most of the work is just wrapping your head around Illustrator. So I'm confident that if you're having software issues, I know that you'll be able to tackle it. The second one is a little bit more complicated. You definitely need a computer up and running for that. But what we'll do is remember that we also have the video here, so we can use the video. All right. All right, so let's fire up Illustrator. Remember to download our file for today, which is a sketch. All right, there are 18 people here. Okay, yeah, this is roughly half. All right, as I'm talking to you, I'm plugging and prodding. Try to reboot this thing one more time. It should work now. Okay, so Illustrator. Oh, lordy dardy. All right. Let's pop this up over here. Let's close this, and this is what your Illustrator should look like. Let me reset the user interface. So the first thing we're going to do is,
Sir,
yes?
the sketch now download. You know why?
Yes, sir. I don't see
It's not downloading.
the option of the where it would download. There's a line inside of a square.
Right.
Yeah, when you click it, there are three files there. One of them is called sketch. So when you double click it, does it look like that?
Yeah, but it now
And
download.
the download button is in the top right
Chris,
hand corner.
click on the three vertical dots. More actions, and you'll see.
No, I see the option to download now, but when I click download, it not download.
Really? That's weird. All right, because it download here. All right, here what? I think I can. Yes, I can send it in Zoom. You're supposed to can send files. No, I don't see. I thought you could send files in Zoom. And I guess I could send a link to the file, but that's technically the same thing. But anyway, I'm going to copy a link to the file and I'm going to paste in the chat. All right. And there we go. Download sketch here. All right, everybody see that? Okay, everybody got the file?
Not yet, sir.
You know the WhatsApp chat.
Sir, that's the sketch, right? That's the sketch, the top one.
Sir, don't say
Yes,
anything.
it's in the chat. Oh, hold on. Sorry, that's in the waiting room. My bad. My bad. I need to message everyone in the meeting. Okay, there you go. You should see it now. All right. I see some messages now that I've turned on my.
Sir, somebody's in the waiting room.
I soon disable it. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, me know my computer just kicked me out a while ago. But I can just take a screenshot of my computer and then just bring in that image. Or I definitely need to download this.
No, you can take a screenshot. You don't need the high-res image.
All right. Because it's still now download.
And then just carry it into the Illustrator, sir.
All right, I'm going to show you how to carry it in Illustrator.
Yes, can I come up today? When you come up, I'm gonna need to come up with me because my reminder for the school.
Hang on.
I said when you come up, but I didn't give you some stuff to drop off, right?
Okay, everybody got the video?
Yeah. You hear me? Yes, it means I need to call it.
All right, let me mute that. Yeah.
Sir, what video?
No, not the video. The
Sketch?
image. The image.
Yeah.
Right.
Not yet, sir.
Okay. All right, we're about to start now. I see I'm just getting a chance to go through my messages, and some students were asking me about a video. Oh, that's loud. Remember to mute your mic, guys. Just going through my messages here. Okay, I need to just send these persons a video real quick. And that video is here. Okay, guys. I wonder if I do this, if the meeting will be disconnected. I want to plug in this device so I can get myself up and running again. Stand by. If it should happen without me disrupting the meeting. Hold on. Stand by, guys. I might have to turn off the share screen. All right. Right. Input. Then I need to go to Pfizer. And I need to go here. Allow. And go there. And go there. And go there. And go there. There. All right. Then you should be seeing me now, but why are you not seeing me? Why won't you work? Why won't you work?
Sir, we see you.
We're seeing you now.
Come on. Let's try again. Yes. All right. All right. This came up now. Lovely. All right. Houston, we are back. Partially. Partially back, but back nonetheless. Let's enable this thing now, and I should be fine. Come on, you stupid laptop. Why would you stop working? All right. Whew. Like magic. Great. Now to go full screen and yes, okay. Disable that and switch over to where are you back? Okay. Yes, you should be seeing me now. Hold on, why am I not hearing any audio? You guys hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're just muted. I thought it was another problem to deal with. All right. All right. After much delay, we are back. I did take a component out of my computer last night, but I wasn't expecting problems this morning at all. All right. So Illustrator. Now, when you fire up Illustrator, you will notice it looks a bit similar to Photoshop. Oh, great! I recorded all of that madness a while ago. Oh well. This is what it should look like, and the first thing we're gonna do is let me reset my workspace so it should look a bit like yours. Do you guys remember panels in Photoshop? So panels in Photoshop in Illustrator works the same way. And what we're going to do is we're going to use just a few panels to do the task at hand. Now, the good thing is that a lot of the things I can skip out on because the interfaces are the same, right? However, there's one major difference with Illustrator. So to get started, I want us to go to, we can do the same thing as before. We can go to, let's close that, all these pop-ups. So we can go to File. We can go to Place. No, we're going to go to New to open a new.
Before you continue, is there a specific size that you went with? Letter?
Right, so here we go. So when you go File and you go New, you'll get the new page that comes up. We're going to use the default page, which is letter size. Admit. Let me disable that waiting room so I don't have to keep admitting people.
Why am I not to say?
Disable waiting room. Okay, right. So this is what the new page should look like. The new page dialog box. For this purpose, we're going to just set it to portrait, and then we're going to choose create. Now the controls in Illustrator are somewhat the same like Photoshop. So to zoom, you hold Alt, mouse wheel. To pan, you hold the space bar and left click. You can pan around. Now Illustrator has a artboard, whereas Photoshop has a, what does Photoshop have? What does Photoshop refer to its page as? Anybody?
Set up a paper space.
Canvas? I don't know.
Aha.
Sir, same paper space, like
No.
a letter size.
No, it's a canvas, right?
That thing I mean, sir. Canvas.
All right, no
Canvas.
problem. So in
Same letter size?
Illustrator, yes, same letter size. So in Illustrator, we have what's called a artboard.
What is?
Now, notice the tools on your left. It's somewhat similar. I want you guys to click this little double arrow here to maximize your tools. That's this little double arrow here in the corner.
Hold on, sir. My wanna move shaky.
But leave off, I press the box cover. What is?
To start something new, you have to, okay, document preset. Hold on.
What? Say this a.
Sir, this a move shaky.
Say that shake up. Say, hold on, let's see if that work now.
Sir, man,
Alright.
press new and leave one, select one new. That camera go on next screen.
This time move right in, I say.
Okay, you're not seeing the new dialog box.
This way I have a top scam. A top scam.
All right. Now,
I see it.
the first thing to understand about Illustrator is that, unlike Photoshop, remember when we were using Photoshop and we zoomed in, we saw we eventually could get to the pixels that make up the drawing. What I want us to do, if we should use the shape tool, right, so the shape tool here, we click and hold, change it to a ellipse tool. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but just to show you, if I draw a shape here, and here's my shape, it doesn't matter how much I zoom in, I will never get any pixels. And that's because Illustrator doesn't work by pixels. That's the first thing to understand with Illustrator. Now,
You can show along your place if you want dopey.
Excuse me, sir. How do you move the print or the page?
repeat?
How do you move the page? I saw you moving it a while ago.
Right. No, we're not moving. It wasn't the page. What I was doing is panning.
Yeah, that. I
Oh,
pressed
hold
the
space
space
bar
bar,
and
but it's not moving.
left click. Hold the space bar and press left click. Click and hold left click as well, and you'll be able to move it around. You got me? Okay, now in Illustrator, so I showed you that with the circle. In Illustrator, it's primarily used for the creation of content and not the editing of content. So for example, you might carry a photo in Photoshop for editing, for enhancing, and we looked at some of those examples. But Illustrator is usually used to create things from scratch, from a blank canvas. You can carry a photo in Illustrator, right? Just like how you do in Photoshop. but you won't be able to manipulate any of the pixels. So if I show you that now, if I just drag this picture into Illustrator, see, it comes in. I'm going to minimize that, make that smaller. So a picture comes in, and you can see it's a picture because you can zoom into this to the pixels. But you can't manipulate this in Illustrator in any way. There are no tools to manipulate it. So for example, you can't use the eraser tool or the pen tool. You can't change it in any way, right? So Illustrator is for dealing with what you call vectors. Now vectors in its simplest state is a line. So what I want you guys to do is, well, first let us set up our interface. So we're gonna go to, on the right-hand side, that's over here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna close out all of these. So just like Photoshop, we're gonna drag it out, close it. Whatever panels you have over here, I'm not sure which ones you have, but I'm gonna close the ones I have. So you should have a nice blank panels. You shouldn't have any panels on screen. And then we're gonna open a few panels. Everybody remember where you go to open panels?
No.
It's just like Photoshop, right? You are gonna go up to window. That will be up here.
Sure. In the meantime, can I ask a question?
Sure.
A personal question? Okay, so I have a laptop.
Sir, you can let me in the waiting room or join on another device.
But
Sure.
I'm trying
Sure.
to find the battery. So do you get battery?
Hold on, the last part of what you said. You had a laptop and what?
I have a laptop with a touch screen, and I also got a pen with it because you suggested that we get a pen.
Yeah.
I've had a pen, and the battery that I received with it started to get old, so I had to take it out. But I'm finding it hard to find that size battery, so I'm asking, is there anywhere out there, as an implementer, that you can buy it?
Okay, well, what you do is just send me a picture of the battery. Let me see what it looks like. All right?
Okay.
In the meantime, yeah. You can WhatsApp that picture to me.
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay, guys. So we go to window. Now the panels that we need are layers. Layers. We need the color panel. Color, do we? Yeah, let's get the color panel. We don't need the color guide, so I'm gonna close that. So far we have layers, color, and we need the stroke panel, most definitely. And that's about it, I believe. Yeah, that's all we need for this one. Now we're gonna dock them together, and they're just like Photoshop. So I'm gonna put these to. Oh, we don't need the transparency panel. So we need stroke, layers, color. I think that's all we need for today. All right, so these three panels, you can close out everything else. All right, let me get that off screen. Now, one of the things I like about Illustrator is that most people have the notion that it's the difficult of the two programs, but actually it's the most simplest to grasp because technically speaking, you have been using an Illustrator-like program already, and that is PowerPoint, Word. Those programs all have vectors in them, and if you can understand that, then you will understand you would realize Illustrator is really no different. So for example, if you should open up a Word document and in your typical Word where you have, let me just go to the Insert tab and you go to Shapes. I don't know, most people are supposed to use this tab already, right? I figure we must have at some point use an arrow or a line or a box in Word. And many times we wanted to change the color of this box and we might change the fill color and then we might change the line color, or we might change the line thickness. Where is the line thickness? Where are you? Right, here we go. The line thickness. So guess what? That is what Illustrator is. All Illustrator is a vector tool that allows you to draw a shape. And for the shape, you can change the fill color. Here's the fill color here. Right now it's white. So I could double click that and change it to red. And I can change the stroke color. Right now it's black. I could have changed it to blue. Right? And there the stroke changed to blue. And that's essentially what you do in Illustrator. You draw lines, change the fill, and change the stroke. And literally, I could just end the class now because that's all Illustrator is. Right? And some of you would laugh and say, oh no. Especially if you've seen people do works of art with Illustrator, you would say, no, that can't be all Illustrator is. I'm sure it can do much more, but the truth is that that's all Illustrator is. Now you might ask, but Photoshop can draw lines and strokes, and it can kind of draw lines and strokes. But in my opinion, Word is better at drawing lines and strokes than Photoshop, right? So you can see, I don't think much of using Photoshop to deal with lines. You get me? Illustrator, on the other hand, is the king of lines. Now here is why it's an underdog. It's an underdog because most CSA students fall in love with Photoshop. And they carry Photoshop to their graves and forget about Illustrator, right? That class that you did in second year called DDM, and you use that little program like Illustrator. But guess what? For you guys, budding architects, one of the most important, I would say, elements that's used as an architect is what? Is lines. Lines are your life. Floor plans, elevations, sketches. You guys pretty much live by using lines. And Illustrator is the queen of lines. So with that said, for Illustrator, it should be, I would expect, especially CSA students, to fall in love more with Illustrator than with Photoshop, because if you're dealing with lines pretty much for all the 4 years, you dealt with it as hand, now you're going to deal with it on the computer. Illustrator is the program that is able to manipulate lines in a way that no other program can, right? And when I say Illustrator, I refer to programs like Illustrator, but Illustrator is the most popular. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we open Word, and Word a while ago I just drew a square, and I also can draw a circle as well, pretty straightforward. And I can change the fill and the stroke weight. I can even change the stroke color to dashes, right? I don't know if you guys have done this already. But pretty much that's all you can do with shapes in Word, right? There's much more that you can do with these lines than just change the thickness. So on the flip side, if I have a circle in Illustrator, right? Similar circle. And remember how these two things work. This is the fill this is the stroke. That's perhaps one of the most important things you need to learn in Illustrator, right? That this
Sir,
here
I
is the
understand the
fill
fill,
color,
but what is
and
the
that is the
stroke?
stroke. Say again?
I
What?
understand the fill, but what is the stroke? Is it the outline?
Right, the outline. I should have said that. But in Illustrator, it's known as stroke. So it's the same thing as in Word, where you have where it's called shape outline. In Illustrator, it's called stroke. All right? Or rather, sometimes it's called paths. You get me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in order to change the stroke thickness or the outline thickness, I would go to my stroke panel and I can change the thickness there. So there we go. But what you can do that you can't do in Word or Photoshop is these two icons here. Now notice that in Illustrator you have two selection tools. The next most important tool. And in Illustrator, I'm able to select and move these strokes around. I can move them around like that. So I can now manipulate strokes in Illustrator. And this is the gravity defined feature that that this program has. So remember, keep in mind that it's not pixels. So it's impossible for you to lose quality of work. It is always 100% sharp. And even saying 100% sharp is a little bit of a impossible thing. I mean, how can something be 100% sharp? I mean, if something is a high resolution, that just means it has more pixels packed into the location. But eventually you can get down to the pixel. Illustrator doesn't have pixels. So in saying something is 100% sharp, it is basically talking about something that's a little bit impossible as it relates to the computer. And that's because all of the graphics you're seeing in Illustrator is not based on pixels, but it's based on algorithms, right? And that was a whole new discovery for the world of graphics when they discovered that, hey, we don't have to show things in little dots. Even today, that's how we describe things on a computer. When you're talking about printers, we talk about dots per square inch. And your phones that you have pixels that show you the image. But here comes a program that does not use pixels at all. So it kind of blew most people's minds back in the 90s. Right after Photoshop already blew people's minds, and here came Illustrator to further blew people's minds. And what happened, it had disrupt an entire industry. I will show you that a bit closer to the end, but we'll get through our exercise first, and then I will show you how Illustrator kind of disrupted the industry. So anyway, so the ability to manipulate strokes and also the ability to create them. So this other tool now, which is the tool that most of us will either love or hate with a passion, is going to be the pen tool. It's pretty much the most important tool in Illustrator. Pen tool allows you to draw lines. That's simply what it does. And notice while I'm drawing lines, you see that I'm drawing a stroke and it's getting a fill. And I could select the object here and turn off the fill. Apart from changing the color of the fill, I could turn it off like that. All right, so let's give it a swing, right? What I want us to do, close this a bit. I want you guys to import the drawing. Where do I have it? I have it on my computer here. I have it in courses, computing, DDM, student content, and we are in exercise 3, exercise files, and to the concept sketch. Is it this one? Nope, it's not it. Oh, this was from last semester. Okay. Okay, I gave you guys, no, this was the semester before. Okay. I gave you guys a different sketch this time around. Right, I gave you this one. So everybody should just drag this sketch in. We're gonna, don't skew it. So you want to hold shift while you change the size. And we want to give it a fairly good size. So let's do it something like that. Now, this was another sketch that I got from a student, right? And especially that we are doing distance learning. When you drew a sketch, you deal with lines. Now, you can use the pen tool to do a sketch like this. And you might ask, but why? I mean, I could just use my marker and do this sketch. But I'm going to show you an advantage of doing at least your diagrammatic sketches in Illustrator. So first thing, I want us to just drag this to our artboard here. All right, you guys with me? Now, when you drag something to your artboard, you realize you get this X through it. And this X is telling you that it is a linked file. But don't worry about that for right now. Hey, as a matter of fact, let us open a familiar panel that we used in Photoshop. I want us to go for window, and go for our layers panel. Oh, I did tell us to open layers, didn't I? Yes. So this is our layers panel here. So guess what? Illustrator has layers just like Photoshop. But unlike Photoshop, you can have multiple objects on a single layer. So we'll see exactly what that means as we go on. All right, so this sketch that I have here is on layer 1. And let's rename that layer. So I want us to double click this and call this sketch layer. No, we don't need to call it sketch. It's a layer, so we don't need to say layer again. All right. So we call that layer sketch. Now, then what I want us to do is we are gonna create a new layer, and it's the same icon like Photoshop. So we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to double click this and call this trace.
Sir,
Yeah.
I don't see that icon to do the layout.
Oh, your icon might be a little different if you're using a different version, but you should still have an icon on the bottom that says something like new layer. Maybe it's not shaped like this, but it should be right here.
Okay.
Right beside the garbage bin.
Yeah, I got it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so notice we have 2 layers. Now, what we're going to do, our objective here is we are going to trace this sketch using the pen tool. And funny enough, Illustrator is more a tool for your mouse than it is a digital pen. Photoshop is more a tool for your digital pen than it is your mouse. You get me? Illustrator is primarily about precision, right? So anyway, let's use this to do this sketch. Now, the pen tool will annoy you at first, but it's kind of this hate-love relationship. You will hate it first, and then you will love it later. There's nobody I know that does not love the pen tool. There are just people that don't love it yet. You get me? So you just need to get through that little hiccup right there. All right. All right. So before we start tracing, there's a couple of things we want to do. So we want to click on this here, and we want to change the opacity of this, because this is basically going to be like tracing. We're going to trace over this. Now to do that, we do, okay, let's enable, depending on the version of Illustrator that you're using, you might notice that you may or may not have a control panel at the top. Remember in Photoshop where you had this bar at the top that had like tools on it? So we're going to enable that by going to Window and Control. Now you may already have this up here. If you do, then no problem. So I've enabled, I went to Window and turned on Control, which is off in the new versions of Illustrator, right? Because I came up with a new tool, but we're not going to use the new one yet. All right, now I want you to click on this layer and notice how the control panel up here works. In Photoshop, it changed when you click on a tool, but notice I'm clicking on tools now and it's not changing. In Illustrator, your control panel changes when you click on objects. So that is one difference to notice. So if I click on nothing, if I just click on the background, then look, this is what my control panel says. If I click on this sketch that I brought in, notice that it changes and it gives you options available to the object you have selected. So one of those objects is opacity, and we want to take this down to about 30% brightness, maybe 20, maybe 10. 10 might be yeah, I think 10 works for me. So we're going to turn that down. All right. And I mean, opacity is straightforward. It just makes it more transparent. The next thing we're going to do.
Not seeing that.
When you click, you have to click on the object first. And then one of your options should be opacity. It might be in a different position depending on the version, but it's somewhere up top. Then what I want you to do is you're going to lock this layer by clicking this little empty space right here. And that locks the layer. That's right here. So you have locked the sketch layer. So what does that mean? It means you're unable to manipulate it or move it, right? Kind of like taping down a sketch that you're about to trace, right? You want to lock it so you don't shift it. All right, so you should be there with me now. So I've just locked that layer.
Show how you lock the layer a while ago? I missed that.
It's right here on the layer dialog box. All you have to do is, all you have to do is click it. Just click that blank space. It's blank now. Just click it and a little lock symbol comes up.
Sir, so like Photoshop has history, this have it as well?
Not really. This has the kind of traditional undo system. Control Z to undo, Control Shift Z to redo. It doesn't really have a history like that, you know? Yeah, I don't know why. I guess just a different creature. All right, so what we're going to do now is interpret some of these lines. Now, of course, this is a sketch, so it has a limit to the size. Everybody can see the size, right? By the way, our next lecture session will be very important. We're going to discuss image size. And this is one of those, it will be one of those little classes that I will refer back years to come. If I do see you again in third year or second year, I'm going to be referring back to, remember that DDM class where I talked about image size? Because I don't expect anybody to be putting up blurry images or printing blurry images and so forth, right? So in the next lecture session, we'll talk about pixels and image size and DPI, which sometimes is a bit of a confusing thing. So I'm hoping to clear up that confusion next week, Monday. Anyway, so we're going to trace this now. We have locked this layer. So we want to be on our trace layer. So I'm going to just click the trace layer there. And then we're going to use the pen tool, right? We're diving in the deep end. All right. So the first thing we want to do before we start tracing, before we start annoying ourselves, right, is we want to set up our stroke and fill. Now for our fill, we don't want a fill now. All we want is a stroke. So we're going to change the fill to empty by clicking on the fill and then click this little box with a line. This means that there is no fill. Then we're going to click on the stroke. Notice that when we change to the stroke, when we change to the stroke, it comes on top. And we want to change the color of the stroke to black. So we're going to double click that and go all the way down to the corner where RGB 000. We're going to change that to black. And there we go. So if you're talking Word and PowerPoint language, the outline is set to black and the fill is set to blank, to no fill. But we're going to elevate from Word and PowerPoint language, right? We're going to start talking about paths and strokes and fills and so forth, all right? Okay, good. So once that is set, let's trace our first line. Now, I'm going to show you a neat trick that will prevent you from
start tracing. I did everything that you told me to do, but the layer with the sketch is still black. It's not gray.
the layer with the sketch. When you say gray, what do you mean? Oh, I mean it's not transparent. It's not semi-transparent.
Yes, sir.
Right. So you need to, well, you need to unlock it. So I'll go back to my selection tool here, which is this tool here. The selection tool allows you to select objects. So I want to unlock it, click on it, and then when I click on it and this control bar up here, I want to change the opacity. You have to change the opacity. All right. Remember, you need to be on the selection tool in order to select objects. And notice there are two selection tools here, but we'll get to that in a bit. So we're using the black one. Now, I'm going to lock back this layer here because I don't want to mess with it any at all. I'm going to go on my trace layer. I'm going to grab my pen tool. And when I grab my pen tool, I'm going to go over to my stroke panel and notice my stroke is telling me that the line weight is 1. I think that's okay. So let's leave the line weight at 1 point, right? PT's point, right? And we're going to start sketching. Now, when we're sketching this area, what I want us to do is I'm going to zoom in, Alt and mouse wheel to zoom in, just like Photoshop. I want us
with the second layer, what the second layer is supposed to be for? The sketch?
Yeah, the trace layer is what we're going to be drawing on now.
Also tracing over. So just
right.
duplicate and change.
No, because if you duplicate the layer, you're going to duplicate the object. So you're going to just create a new blank layer. and call it trace layer.
So now click on the trace layer, right?
Right. And then we're going to just trace this. So what I want you to do to trace this is to just click once. Don't click and drag, just click once. And I want you to imagine a non-smooth version of this. So I'm only creating angles. Everybody see that? I'm not trying to get those curves that is in the sketch. I'm just like turning them into stiff angles. And I'm zooming by using Alt and mouse wheel, just like Photoshop, or I can use space bar and click.
So another thing.
Then press escape when you're done.
What's the thickness of the line, sir?
Mine is at 1 point. So if I look at my stroke panel, it is at 1 pt.
Okay.
All right, that should be fairly straightforward.
Williams,
Yeah.
how you deselect if you're supposed to?
When you finish, just press the escape button. Right? All right.
So, sir, my strokes are showing red, right?
You can change it later, but it should be black.
All right.
We can change it when we finish drawing. I can't be that big played. All right. Okay, everybody finish? All right, so that wasn't painful. Right?
Sure, we were not supposed to sketch the entire thing.
Yeah, but not quite yet.
Yeah, but not quite yet.
Just take it a step at a time. All right, so now that we have sketched a rough version of this, what we're going to do now is we are going to use our direct selection tool, that is the white arrow. Now here's where we come to learn about these two arrows. The black arrow allows us to select this entire line object as one. See that? The white arrow allows us to select the individual anchors that make up this object. So now I'm able to do things like change this line here, change that line there, and so forth. You get me? So that's why you have two selection tools in Illustrator. Now what we're going to do is use the white arrow and then we're going to go in and we are going to now convert these angled lines into curves, right? And how we do that is you go to your selection tool, you click on a corner that you want it to be a curve, but you made it an angle, And then you're gonna click this this button right here while selecting that point, which say convert anchor points to smooth. And once you do that, it's converted to a smooth anchor point, right? And you can even do more than one. I could select like all of these and change to smooth. Now this trick is
I missed that while ago, sir.
so you click on a point, then at the top control bar, you click convert to smooth, which is this icon here.
Okay.
All right. And you do that for all the points. So you click on the next point and you say convert to smooth. And the other one, convert to smooth. Or you can just select a bunch of them by clicking and dragging and convert to smooth like that. Now, this is an interesting trick, a technique that I have developed, because you could just attempt to draw it smooth one time if you wanted to. And that's what we'll do next. And then you choose which method you want to use to draw curves. You can draw the curves one time, or you can draw it as an angle and then change them to a curve. So let's try drawing the curve one time for this line below. All right. So we're going to go to the line tool. Everybody with me? And for our second round, we're going to just draw everything one time. Curve, everything. We're not going to draw it as angles and then change the curve. Now, how do you do that? You click once to get an angle. If you wanted to get a curve like here, you click and hold. And there's no real way to explain this. You just have to feel it out. You click and hold to get what's called a Bezier curve. So I click and hold again. And I click and hold again. And you know, you just have to kind of feel it out to see how it works. But in drawing a line via this method, I'm going to pan down. Remember, you can pan while you're sketching. Usually, you know, if you're familiar with Bezier curves, then this should be no problem. But if it feels weird, you can do it the first method, like I showed you. Press escape when you're done. There we go.
Sir, can go over that please one time?
I'm using the pen tool. And what I'm doing, every time I want to get a curve, I click, hold, and drag to get these little angles here. Then release. Click, hold, drag to get a curve. Click, hold, drag, and release. That's how you get a Bezier curve. And when you sketch that way, you draw it without draw it as a curve immediately, rather than drawing it as an angle and then changing it to a curve.
Sir, mine a move not like it no one move. Sir, mine a move away.
I know, so that's why I show
Click,
you.
hold, and drag. Yes, sir?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I can just do
Click,
it the
hold,
other
drag,
way.
release.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
But so what happened is that most people who go into Illustrator, they try to draw Bezier curves right off the bat, but you can see that it takes some amount of getting used to. So it's recommended that you do it as an angle and then change it to a curve until you get familiar with the Bezier. Remember, you have to mute one of your devices, guys. If you have two devices on, you're going to get feedback.
Remind me of your pan again, sir.
Hold this space bar and left click.
Sir, the Wi-Fi kicked me out a while ago, or my device kicked me out. How you do that thingy? Because I tried it and it not doing properly.
Right, use the pen tool. Click once to get an angle.
Yes.
Click once to get an angle. Click and hold and drag to get a curve.
Sure, but I tried that on mine. No, do that.
It's not clicking on.
Click
Are you
and
on?
hold.
Are you
Click
on the
and
pen
hold.
tool? Make sure that you're on the pen tool.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you're on this pen tool, not the curvature tool, the pen tool.
Let's try the pen tool, man.
All right, good. Right, so that should be it.
But no, but no, do it for me. So click, hold, and drag.
All right, click, hold, and drag, and you get these lines. And when you release, it gives you the curve.
Not me, sir.
It's only giving
Why
you.
not rating to me, isn't it?
Sir,
So that give me some, that give me curve, you know, but it not give me no curve to follow the line. It give me some weird curve.
You mean like that? It's like that. You have to rotate it until the curve. You have to rotate it. You have to control the Bezier until the curve looks like what you want. That's why I'm saying this method takes more getting used to. You have to kind of familiarize with yourself with how to control these handles to get a curve. So you can use the way that I showed you a while ago, that is to draw everything as angles and then change it to curves after.
Sir, so when they change it from the angle to the curve, you have to do them one.
No, you can select multiple, but you need to use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. And you can select multiple corners. They're just dragging a box around it.
Oh, okay.
And then you go up the top and change it to curves.
Okay.
Right. You can also go back in and edit that curve when you're done. All right, so that covers the pen tool. Now we're going to cover some other line types now, right? Next, let's talk about fill and the types of fill. All right, so we're going to trace this other component here.
Sir.
Yeah.
My internet is gone. How you get the curved lines?
Use the pen tool, and when you're drawing, you click, hold, and drag. All right. Now we're going to go back for the pen tool, and this time we're going to make the line for this object a bit thicker. So we're going to use the stroke panel, and we're going to change the stroke to, I think, about 3 or 4. Let's change it to 4. And this is pretty much angles all around. So we're going to just click, and we're going to trace this.
Sir, you froze on my screen.
Right, we're just tracing this. We're just tracing this. We're just tracing this shape.
Sure, the online thing can't work.
I mean, I hear you a while ago. I heard.
We use the pen tool and we trace this shape next.
Sir, yes, I still did not hear that.
We're tracing the next shape, like what you see I have here on screen. Now this is a closed shape. So when you trace it, you're gonna come all the way back around to the to the starting point, and then you get a little zero on your icon on your so you will get, so notice when you reach back the last point, you see this is a zero comes up on the pen tool. That means that it's going to be closed. Okay, so now that we have this, let's look a little bit on fills. Now I'm switching to my selection tool here, and I can click on this object. And what is the fill for this object?
None.
Exactly, none. Now we can change the fill to a color, and we know how to do that by simply double clicking here and changing it to a color and choose OK, and it changes to a color. But we know how to do that already, so let's not worry about that. What I want us to do is we are going to fill it with a with what's called a pattern. Right?
Sir, how did you select the object?
I use the selection tool, which is the black arrow, top left black arrow. And you click on the object here, see it selected.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
And then do what after that?
Okay.
Color. And it's a none. Okay. Oh. So is the inside we want to change the color of?
Right. So we're gonna go to the inside in just a bit. So everyone should have
So at that point you couldn't. At that point you couldn't send a message. As an emergency contact.
good. Everybody has that?
As what?
What are we supposed to have?
Trace the shape. Trace the shape.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So next, what we're going to do is coming to you.
Sure, my low key now, so I go up on the screen and like everything freeze.
I have problem.
What you have problems with? All right. Coming to you. I'm coming to you.
Sure, I'm also not seeing anything.
Hold on, you're not seeing anything on my screen?
Sure, just stagnant. No,
No, it's okay.
Yes,
It's
it's just
okay.
not moving.
It's okay. No, it's all right. It's not frozen. It is not frozen. Come on, thing. Why are you not working with me? Come on, work with me, work with me. All right, good. All right. Okay, so let's talk about filling this. Now, so a while ago, I showed you how you can fill using a color, but we're going to fill using a pattern to get this pattern here. Now, to do that, let me take off this arrow. You are gonna go to, you need a panel. We're gonna go to window and you're gonna need the swatches panel, which is this one here. Looks like this. So I'm gonna pull that out and close the rest. This is what your swatches panel should look like. Right? And I'm gonna just dot that panel over with all the other panels. All right, so you have this panel called swatches. Now what this is that it will, if I just click a color here while on the fill, it will just fill it with a color, right? Which is pretty nifty, but we don't want to fill it with a color, so I'm gonna choose none. What we want to fill it with is a pattern. Now everybody can see the pattern that is on this, right? It's like strokes. So what I want you to do is you're gonna go here, this little icon here to libraries, swatch libraries. All right, so everybody should go to the swatch libraries icon, which is located here. And you click on that icon and you get this list that comes up. And what you're gonna do is go down to patterns. Then you're gonna go over to the right and then you're gonna choose what category now? Lines, that would make sense, right? So we're going to choose lines and that should open up our lines category of patterns. And all we do is just click one of these.
Read after library, sir.
So let me go again. In order to get this fill here, I need to open my swatches panel, which is this. So I open my swatches panel. I'm going to just dock it with the rest of my panels. The swatches by default contains typical popular colors that you can use to fill. But I am gonna be using a pattern. So I'm gonna go to the libraries icon here, and it's on the swatches panel. And in this library category, I'm gonna go to patterns and go to basic graphics and then go to basic graphic lines.
Okay.
Then you will see these patterns come up, and these are all types of lines that I could pick. Everybody seen that?
Sir,
Pretty
the outline
straightforward. No, turn on the light. Turn on the lights. Right, go
Sir,
again.
to change the outline.
Right, and that is because you're on outline. So you need to make sure that you are on fill, not stroke. Make sure the fill is in front. All right. You have to ensure that the fill is in front here. Okay, now the pattern we're looking for is maybe one with lines. Yeah, this is good. But what's the issue that we have here?
Sir, it is not.
Direction.
Right. It needs to be rotated. Now, in order to rotate a pattern, I'm gonna introduce you to a new tool. It's the rotate tool, and it's located there. And remember how Photoshop, how Adobe stuff works. If you're not seeing the rotate, maybe you're seeing the scale, and you need to change it to rotate, right? But it's in that position. Now you're gonna double click on the rotate tool. This part is important. When you double click on it, you'll get this dialog box that comes up. And basically what you want to tell Illustrator is, I only want to rotate the patterns, not the object. What happens if you don't check this? Then you
Sir,
will
that just
rotate the
reached me.
entire
Rotate the
object.
thing.
Exactly. So you want to uncheck rotate objects and only have rotate patterns. So that way, and turn on preview as well so you can preview it. So that way we should be like that. So there we go. And you will have your pattern. Right?
Sir, you can go over that, please.
Not seeing the icon.
You're not seeing this icon?
No, I can't find it. Beside my text icon is line segment.
Line segment. I wonder if it's because you have a different version. Maybe it's in a different position. So you want to look for this icon here. Or just press R. Just press R. That's your shortcut. All right. So so you have two more things to fill here. I will leave you guys to fill that. The last thing I want to show you guys is arrows. Arrows are super important. When you guys are doing diagrams, you can use arrows. If you're sketching out an illustration here, you can use arrows to, to show, pathways and circulations and label objects. And I mean, it's just endless, all right? So let's talk about the arrows now, guys. And that's the final piece to our puzzle today. Is everybody here with me? Ready for arrows?
Yes, sir, but mine did not rotate.
Yours did not rotate. Remember you have to double click on the rotate icon to get the option to only rotate the pattern, not the object. And you can also preview. Remember to check the preview to see it, so you don't have to click OK and then go back each time.
Nothing came up for preview.
So when you double click this, you use this little circular thing here to rotate the, right? Okay, so let's talk about arrows. Now there are a couple different types of arrows here. And I remember when I gave out this exercise, somebody who didn't come to class what they actually did was trace the arrows, right? They didn't use the arrow tool. They actually like, you know, trace the arrows with lines and then fill it with black. That is the incorrect thing to do. And you will definitely not get points for that because you are supposed to use the arrow tool, right guys? Which is basically a line tool, okay? You guys with me? Okay.
Yes, sir. We're there, man.
Yes, sir.
Let's get pointing. So we're gonna grab the pen tool here, right? Or trust the pen tool. And to draw an arrow in Illustrator, it's as simple as drawing a line. So I'm gonna take this first arrow here and I'm gonna start a line from here to here and press escape. And that is basically our arrow. Now, of course, you might say, no, it's not really an arrow because it doesn't have the arrow head on it. This is where our stroke panel comes in, right? Now, I want you to go to your stroke panel, right? This is another important part. And you might look at your stroke panel and say, why not go on for this panel? You know? I mean, it just have one little option here, which is to change the size of the stroke. But little do we know that we have what's called panel options. I don't know if you remember, I showed you in Photoshop that all panels have panel options. So what I want you guys to do is to go to panel options and then I choose this option here to show options. And then voila, your stroke panel now turns into this Star Trek command center. So again, I go to my stroke panel, I go to panel options here, and I select show options. And this now unleashes the full capability of strokes in Illustrator. Now, of course, this is where Illustrator shines because all of these options here have to do with lines. And I mean, you know, Word and PowerPoint and Photoshop, they don't have the length and breadth of these options that we're seeing here. Yeah.
Sir, the stroke panel, what you do to get the rest of those stuff? Show option?
Yes, show options, which is right there.
Okay.
Now here's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is this line that we've drawn here. We're going to go to our selection tool. That's the black arrow. And we're going to click on that line so that to make sure it's highlighted. By the way, by now you should have multiple objects in your scene. So, oops. So when you notice how you can select different objects by clicking on them, right? In Photoshop, you weren't able to do this because each of these objects needed to be on individual layers. But in Illustrator, all of these objects are on the trace layer. So if I turn off the trace layer, you will see everything go away. So that's one important thing that I just want to highlight, that you're going to select this line object here that we just drew. And with the line object selected, we are going to go over to the stroke panel. I'm going to put the stroke panel right next to it so we can see it. We're going to go to the stroke panel. We're going to go all the way down here to arrowheads. And we're going to change one of them to the appropriate arrow, which I do, but there are quite a bit of arrows here. So we're going to choose this arrow. Oops, that's on the wrong side. So I'm going to choose none this way, and I'm going to choose or this arrow. I think it could be that, or no, this one. Then of course the arrow is a bit big, so I want us to change the, oops. I want us to change the size of the arrow by, here we go, we can just change here, the size of the arrow, like that. So that is pretty cool. And this is a arrow tool, meaning that if we move this around, the arrow will move with it. It's not an arrow that we have traced with lines. All right, so that gives you an idea of all the breadth of options you have here in the stroke tool. Now I'm going to just do it one more time for those who didn't get it. I'm going to go to the pen tool again, and I'm going to draw this next arrow. I'm going to click and click there, and that's my arrow. Then I'm going to go to my selection tool now that allows me to select objects. I'm going to make sure that I have that arrow selected. Go to my stroke panel, and I'm going to change my arrowhead to the appropriate one, which is that one. And I'm going to change the size of the arrowhead to something like that. Now, definitely, I don't want to do this like 10 times. So, of course, I'm going to copy this. And the quickest way to copy in Illustrator is to hold Alt and move the object. Hold
Sir,
Alt, move the object.
sir, my arrowhead come turn in the other direction.
Right. So what you can do, if it's the other direction, you can use this icon here and just flip the arrowheads. See? You can just flip the arrowheads.
Will you be posting the recording after this class?
Yes, I'll be posting it. I'll post the one after this class because it will have less issues because I've figured out my problems here. Okay?
Wait, so you're saying you're going to post the 4 p.m. one?
Right, not this one. This one got off to a rocky start, so I want to post the 4 p.m. class. All right? Don't worry, you're doing the same thing. All right. All right, so we should have some arrows here. You know what? I think these arrows actually start there. I don't think they intersect the line here. So I'm going to use my direct selection tool and click the end of these arrows and just carry them up to this line. I'm going to click the end and carry them up. Because in the sketch, I don't believe they come over. When you're selecting these little dots, what you do is click on it once and then click and move it.
Sir, how you do the copy?
How I do the copy? I make sure that I'm on my move tool first, my move tool, and then I select the object I want to copy, and I hold Alt while moving it. See? Of course, you can use the traditional Control C, Control V, but this is a bit more robust.
There was YouTube.
Feedback.
Sir.
Yeah.
Where's it?
No, oh, you have to mute one of your devices. Mute the one that you're not using to talk.
I'm a bit late, so this is vector based, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right, so let's do another arrow. Let's do the one with the dash here. So what we're going to do, we're going to draw this line first, and then we're going to draw this one with the dash. So this one is pretty straightforward. We're going to go for our pen tool again. And of course, you know, this has a curve. You can choose to draw the curve however you want. You could click and hold and drag, or you could like convert it to a curve. I'm going to convert it to a curve. So I'm going to draw it the stiff way first, like that and like that. Oops, I have a fill here, so I need to turn off my fill. All right, I don't want a fill. And then I'm going to use my direct selection tool, that's a white arrow. Click on this corner and convert it to a curve. And then I'm going to just kind of manipulate it to look like the sketch. Yeah, there we go. That looks more like it. How do I get arrows to be on either side of this? So I will need to go to my selection tool here and make sure that I have the line object selected. Then I will go to my stroke panel, of course, the expanded version of my stroke panel. And all I need to do is to put an arrowhead on each side. So I'll put an arrow here, and I'll put the same arrow here. Actually, is that the right arrow? Yeah, I guess that's the best arrow to use. And then what I'm going to do is, actually the scale of the arrow seems okay. Hold on, let's change that arrow. I'm going to change it to this arrow. Right, I think it's more the wider one, that one. And then I'm going to increase the scale of both of them. I can actually just click this little link icon here. So when I increase one, both will increase. There we go.
When you join the line.
Say again?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, what did you say a while ago?
Oh, you remove the fill when you join the line.
Oh, you just, with the object selected, just go over to your fill stroke section here and just turn off the fill by clicking it and click blank. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you guys today is how to get a dash line, right?
Sir, I have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I did it the traditional way for the curve, and now I am here trying to manipulate it, right? And
Right.
it is not giving me the option. Every time I click the thing, it is straightening out the line.
Right. Well, meaning when you click here, no, but after you remember,
you have to come off of the pen tool.
Right. Remember that you might be on, that's a good point. When you have this here, you need to come off the pen tool and go to your direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and then select the corner. And when you select the corner, then you convert it to a arc like that.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, guys. If you are using the 2018 version of Illustrator and up, then you can actually use this circle right here and just bam, you get a curve. All right, so you guys will be happy to know that. But the reason I don't like using this is because you have more work to change it, because it, you know, it gives you two handles, so it's much harder to deal with a curve than if you just converted it. You would get one, and then you just manipulate this one little thing here. You know, so you know how these things go. But you know, I'm just pointing it out to you. Okay, let's draw the last arrow. And this time around, what I want you to do is when you're drawing this arrow, you are going to, don't start here. I want you to start up here.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Might sound weird, you know. Sir, I had started drawing on the trace layer, right? And it ended up go back on layer one. I'm draw everything on layer one, except for a couple things. Is it a way that I can now put it into the next layer?
Yes, you can. But what you have to do, you have to remember to lock the layer. If you lock it, then you won't be able to draw on it. But in case you have placed objects on the other layer, all you need to do is to expand the layer here. So you see, when I expand the layer, I can see all the objects that I drew. I can easily drag and drop them to each layer, to any layer that I want. You understand?
Oh.
So I just need to drag everything to the trace layer and then make sure you lock it so that you can't draw on it. All right?
So how you drag that now? Hold on. How you drag it? Oh, you just click.
Just drag it. Just click and hold and move it.
Drag it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on.
So go ahead and do the next part of the arrow, the curve part.
Right, but I wanted to point out something when you're doing this. When you're on the pen tool, right? Notice that if you try to draw the arrow from here to continue it up like that, when you hover over the end of this line, you get a symbol. When you hover over nothing, you get another symbol, you get an asterisk. And if you hover over the middle of the line, you get another symbol, but the line has to be selected. Hold on, let me do that and show you. If you hover over a line, you get this symbol, which is a plus. So these little symbols that you're seeing here beside the pen tool are super important because at the end of a line, that means that you're extending the line, see? If it's in the middle of a line, that means you're adding a point to the line. And if it is on an anchor, that means you're minusing the anchor. You see that? So you have to pay attention to those little symbols that are right there. Now, for that purpose, when you're drawing this line, I wouldn't want you to start from here because then it's going to extend this line. And that's not good because, you know, you're just going to end up with the arrow up here. So what I want you to do is to start from up here and draw it down. So that way you draw a brand new line. And then we're just going to put a regular arrow on this. And I do believe we can use the pipette tool, can we? No, we can't. Okay. So you're going to just use the selection tool and you're going to go to your stroke panels and you're going to change one of these. I can never figure out which one. Depends on how you draw it. So that, if it's the wrong one, then you just click this as an arrow here to around. And then we're going to make this one a bit bigger. But there's something else about this line. What is it? It's a dash line. So to create a dash line, what you do is that you're going to choose the dash line option here. And Illustrator is really cool because it allows you to select the, so I can go in here and I can change this option. By the way, use your mouse wheel to change this option. Don't bother type it in, just put the mouse in there and use the mouse wheel and hover it. And it will change the size of the dash. But what I want you to do is to put a value in here, but also change the size of the gap. So let's click in the gap and use the mouse wheel. So that way you can actually change how big the gap should be. So you can do something like that. No, that's too far. Let's go again. Let's make it a bit smaller. Yeah, that looks more like it. All right.
Sir, still I do the same foolishness, you know, sir. It has straightened the line. Still no.
You mean when you try to convert the corner into a curve?
Yes, sir.
So what should happen is if you have a corner here, you should go on the white arrow, click on the corner that you want to change. Make sure that that corner is highlighted. And then you want to click this tool here, convert anchor points to smooth.
Okay.
All right.
Sir, when I do the additional dash line arrow, when I join it from the top, it makes it into one.
Yeah, don't end it on the end point of the arrow. All right, just kind of go inside the line a little bit. All right. All right, guys, I'm going to show you one last awesome tip that the stroke has. Let's say that you are tracing, give me a simple one now. Let's say this circular one here. Yeah, let's say that I'm tracing this. And you know, by now we know how to do it. We just go to our pen tool. Perhaps this line is not as thick, so probably we want to make that like 2.5 maybe, right? Because it's not that thick. And I'm gonna just do this the old school way of trying to just get it first right off the bat. I mean, I'm kind of used to it, so that's why I can do it this way, but I've shown you both ways. All right, so let's say that I get this thing sketched out like that. Now, what I want to show you guys is that, oh, by the way, you know, like, let's say that you have something that meets like this and you don't like how this meets. You do the same thing. You just go for your white arrow. You click on this little tight spot here, and then you say convert to curve. And then you just want to just carry the seam so that it's a more tighter curve like that. Yeah. Anyway, that's not what I was showing you. What I was showing you is look closely on this line. All right. You can see that the profile of the line is equal all the way through. And I'm showing you this because I want to introduce you to line profile, right? Which is at the bottom of the stroke panel. If I change this to a profile of big, of little to big to
Excuse
little.
me, sir.
Yeah.
Can you move across your screen?
Can I?
Yeah, we weren't seeing it.
Oh, okay. Right, but it was the first profile I was selecting anyway. So if I do the line profile here, notice this profile goes big, little to big to little. So if I click that, then what happens to the line? Where you ended the line, it started little, then it got big, then it got little again. So now your lines starts to look a little bit more, you know, like sketchy. Let's try that with the arrows. If we look at the arrows, which is down here, let's do it with this line here. So I use my selection tool, that's a black arrow, and I click on this line. And I want to change the profile of this. Let's try a different profile. Let's try big to little. So I click that and notice where the line started is big, and then where it's ended is small. And then I can change the dash line profile to go from big to little as well. And I can flip these around if I want. So now, you know, you get this kind of vibe where it goes from big to little and then little to big. So even though you're drawing lines, it doesn't have to look like, you know, like AutoCAD lines where everything is all perfect and square and that kind of stuff. Even this, notice how you trace this first thing and all of these corners are nice and sharp. I mean, you could cut your hand on that corner. And maybe you don't want these corners to look so angled. So you go for your stroke tool again and look, check it out. You can change corners from angled to curves. I can change it to curves, so now the corners are curved. Or I can change it to chamfered, so now all corners are chamfered. So, you know, it's these little things, you know. Check out the end of this line here. The end of this line ends with a square. I could let it end with a, oops, I need to select it first. I could let it end like that. So now it ends with a little bulge. Or I could make it end like that with a little overhang. I mean, we're only at the tip of the iceberg. What you can do with lines in Illustrator is just crazy, right? You can really go down into your line work and do some nice tweaking. And Photoshop or Word or PowerPoint don't afford you any of these line manipulation tools. So that's basically what we're doing today. The exercise isn't that really hard. It's kind of simple, and I made it simple because the program might come across as very geometrical, very engineerical, right? Forgive that made up word. And I know that, you know, in architecture, we're actually made up from those two types of brain, you know, the art side and the science side. So Illustrator is this interesting mix of, it feels like you're doing technical drawing, but yet it is an artistic program. All right. So I want you guys to finish the rest of this sketch. As you realize, this fill is not a lined pattern, it's a dot pattern. I trust that you remember that you just need to go into your swatches and go back into your libraries and look on the patterns, and dot patterns are there, basic dots. There it is, basic dots. So you just need to pick dots there. There you go. Don't worry about the scale of your patterns just yet, because Illustrator still is quite annoying when changing. No, actually, no, you can change the scale really easy. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? You can change the scale, same place you do rotate. You just go to scale and you do the same thing like rotate. You double click and say scale patterns only. So untick scale objects and just scale patterns. And that's it. You can just use your mouse wheel and just make them big.
Yeah, of course.
You can make them big or make them small. So that is pretty cool. All right.
Sure.
Yes. Questions?
Sir, the arrow. You can just go over. I get all the other things. You can just show me how to get the line, the dotted line.
The dash line. You get a dash line when you draw. You draw a line with the pen tool. Like that.
Yes.
Use your selection tool, which is your black arrow, to make sure that you have selected the line. You go to your stroke. That's here.
Oh,
and
stroke.
when you go to stroke, you need to enable dash line. That's right here. All right. Remember, if you're not seeing your options, you need to go here and so show options, right? So you expand your stroke menu. You check dash line, and you can just use your mouse wheel to change the size of the dashes. You can also change the size of the gap. So if you wanted to get that center line, you could change the size of another dash and another gap. So you could end up with this kind of vibe where you have a big dash, little dash, medium dash. I mean, you can even go in and change how the dash works. I mean, that's just crazy, right? I mean, Illustrator, it gives you complete control over your line work. And this is why I say it's an underdog, because most people, they get introduced to Photoshop and they run with it. And then I see people struggling to like do line work in Photoshop, and Illustrator has all of these tools for doing lines. So when you get down to like third year, I think it's fourth year, when you do advanced computing 1, then we start to look at how we can combine Illustrator and Photoshop, and so that you have you know how to because by the time you finish third year, it's like you have so many programs under your belt, you know, to use Revit and Photoshop and Illustrator. So sometimes it's kind of like you have all this power, you know, like what they say with Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So you know, now begins your journey of powering up. Yeah.
How do we rotate the swatch pattern again?
Right. To rotate the pattern, you click on the object. You go to your rotate tool, which is located here. Change it to rotate. Double click the tool to bring up the option, and make sure you select rotate patterns only. Unselect this what says rotate objects. And then all you do, you can actually put your mouse in here and use your mouse to. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Whoa. Just use your mouse to kind of rotate.
Excuse me, sir. Is it possible for you to email me the recording so I don't have to wait until the 4 p.m. class to catch what I missed?
Okay, so you want this recording? All right, no
Yes.
problem. Just skip out the
Thank
part at the
you.
front.
Yeah.
Same, sir. Send it to me.
Okay. Oh, by the way, before
I'll put
you
my email in the chat, sir.
you guys have a next class now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to point you to this location. I'm going to send you to this location.
What? Come.
You guys
come
are
me
seeing.
Africa.
You guys are seeing my screen. Oh yes, you're seeing that screen. Okay. You are gonna go to the site, the website, when you have some time. Design Computing JM. Go over to DDM and DDM 2021. Okay. When you go to the site, scroll down, and under manipulate text and images, there's a nice movie here, the Illustrator Story. So remember, you guys watch pieces of the Photoshop story. The Illustrator Story is there. It's kind of cool. It's very cool, as a matter of fact, to show you how Illustrator kind of came about and how it disrupted the industry. You guys remember in first year when you use your repeater graphic, right? Right?
You use what, sir?
You still use pens in first year?
Yeah.
No.
No? Hold on, so you don't do hand drawing in first year anymore?
Yes, sir.
But we didn't really use pens.
Ah, well, things are changing. But think of it this way. In the world, everybody, if you're called a graphic artist, you used to use a pen, not just if you in architecture. So what was happening is that when Illustrator came out with all of these line options, you know, you can imagine how much people went out of business, because there are persons who trained for years, like how to properly use a pen and draw a line and get a dash line and get a thickness. So, I mean, Illustrator comes out and you click a button and you get a dash line. Right, cartography, right, exactly. So then when Illustrator came out with all of these line tools, and because Illustrator doesn't use pixels, there is no limit to what you draw. So anyway, that movie is interesting, but I'll let you guys get to your next class. We can talk about it when we do our second Illustrator exercise. All right? Okay.
Wait, so hold on. What we supposed to submit? Just the trace.
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Please, 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 when you submit, please to turn off your sketch layer. All right? Don't forget, because some people give me both and I can't make out your lines, which is what I'm really marking for. All right? So turn off your sketch layer and you're going to send it to me as a PDF. All right, let me make sure that the submission button is working.
Sure, one last thing before you go. The little faded thing out at the end there, so is that a requirement? Like it has to be there?
You mean how I change the line, how I make the line profile change?
Yes, sir.
Yes, but I'm not going to say you choose how you want to use it. But I will be
profile.
The profile, right? I change the profile of the stroke. So if I look in stroke options here, here's the profile.
Stroke option and profile. Okay.
Right. So I want you guys to use all of these features in strokes, right? I'll be looking out for them. So some lines will have a rounded corner, some will have a profile change. Then you have a fill. All right.
Sir, how you flip?
How do you what?
Flip it, because mine is at the end. At the
Right. There's a flip. There's a mirror icon right here. See that?
Okay, no. Or if I flip it, go the direction I not even want it to go. Why?
All right. So I will post this video. And yes, the submission button is working just fine. So remember, you're not sending me an Illustrator file. You're sending me a PDF. So you got to go to File and Save As. And you're going to save it as a PDF. There we go. All right. Okay. Well, welcome to the world of Illustrator. So next time around, we will use it to do something in architecture. And we go from there. All right. And then I think what we move on to next, we're going to the world of 3D. That's what we do. Yes, that's what we do. We go 3D, and then we go into publishing. We're going to use InDesign afterwards.
Sure. How do I something the stroke scale it?
Yeah, the line weight of the stroke it's in the stroke panel right here, where it says weight. So you can just increase
the dots more and change.
No, that's a fill. To change the dot, the
fill.
The fill scale, what you need to do is same place where you go to rotate, you need to change that to scale. And you do the same thing. You double click and make sure that you say do not scale the object, only scale the pattern. Make sure you only tick pattern. And then that's it. You just use your mouse wheel and change the scale right there. Yeah, you just hold it down. Just like when you change icons, just choose scale.
And it not change from rotate, none at all. Hold on.
Maybe it's the version that you're using has two separate buttons.
Let me go check. Is there an R? Let me press S. Oh, sorry, change, but me have to press S for change.
Okay, but our way you do just right click it and see if this little change menu pops up.
Okay. All right, scale.
Sorry, the shape there where the dot them, you know. When me I try to get the lines curve in give the option.
That reach me to
Remember, you have to use the direct selection tool and select
the white arrow.
The white arrow. That's what you have to do. You have to select the point. You have to select the exact point that you want to change to a curve.
Mr. Williams.
Yeah?
Are we supposed to do that little scribbling thing on the line?
You mean here where you have these lines? Yes, please.
Oh, fill them out.
Let's use lines. Let's use like lines. Let's draw some lines.
Oh, the end. All right.
Oh, sir. So the sketch, the point that is there, we're supposed to fill the whole sketch.
Basically, yeah. Within reason. Like, I don't expect you to like, because it's a sketch. So, you know, you're not going to do the little piece of line, pencil line work.
All right, I hear you, sir.
Right. This is good stuff, especially if you want to put like your conceptual work on your drawing sheets and the pen work is a little bit scrappy. And you know, for line work, I wouldn't try to carry this in Photoshop to clean up like what we did with the section. For this type of diagram, I would rather carry it in Illustrator and just go it over with lines. And of course, when it's lines, you can change the color, you can move stuff around, you can even include or expand on your sketch. So I do all my sketches in pencil first, and then I carry it in Illustrator and carry it the rest of the way. So I only do about 50% of my sketching on paper. And then the other 50%, I expand on it in Illustrator. And when I'm done, I have some nice clean work that I can publish. I can put it on my sheet. You know, it's up to the standard of a clean drawing.
Okay, sir.
All right. Good luck.
Sir, one last question. Are we
Sure.
going to be using Illustrator for the next class as
Yes,
well?
we will. Yes, we will.
Sir,
Yeah.
for the middle line, you made it go from big to thin. Did you do that for example, or we need to do it too?
I kind of did it for example.
But
You
we should do it for the circle thingy, ellipse
no,
thingy.
no, you see as it relates to the line profile, you choose how you want to use it. Suppose you want to use it on the square. You know, it's not an accuracy thing. In terms of accuracy, I'm just looking if you use dots where you're supposed to use dots, if you use lines where you're supposed to use lines. But in terms of the line profile, it's more of a creative thing. So you use it wherever you see fit, but I want you to use it. All right? So you don't have to use it on the arrow. Use it anywhere you want. Like these little arrows would probably benefit from a nice little line profile there. So they kind of look like it's kind of shooting out, you know what I mean? Like that. You see that? So I think that looks pretty cool, but you know, it's up to you. I guess you're getting some bonus credits in. You know, like when you watch a Marvel movie and the credits roll and there's still more movie at the end. I guess this is what's happening now. You know, the credits have rolled and you're still getting some.
All right, so like when I got it, can show about the get the dots them inside there, so please.
Okay, so remember that you go to your swatches panel and you need to go to your library, and that's where you get the option to choose to see a library of, you know, patterns. You have all kind of stuff here. You go to patterns, basic graphics, and then you have dots, lines, and text. So just pick one of these. So you would pick dots, and then it will open up your library of dots. And all you do, well, make sure that you are on the fill. Oops. Make sure that you are on fill, because you don't want to fill a line with dots. You want to fill the fill. So you choose the shape, the path that you want to fill, and you choose. There you go.
All right, yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Remember, you can scrub through the video when I post it. So, you know. And I guess you guys, when you're rewatching the video, you're watching me repeat myself multiple times, right? So you can always just scrub back in the video. So I would say best to ask me a question that hasn't been asked yet, if you want to, you know, because the video will always be there. Okay, as I say again, remember to turn off your trace layer before you submit. All right, because when you send me the PDF, I won't be able to turn it off. Okay. Okay.
Sir, are you hearing me?
Yeah, all right. What's
The
up?
person asked about the battery for the pen. I sent you.
Oh, right. Wait, you sent me in WhatsApp. Let me see here. I have so many messages coming in because while I was looking on this computer, my phone was off, so I just got bombarded with messages when I turn it on. Okay. Oh, but this is AAA battery. No, hold on. This is Quad A. What in the world? I've never seen these before.
Yes, sir. Those are the battery.
Wow. All right, you know where you could probably get these? You could probably get them, I'm guessing, at Innovative Systems. Or Electro World sometimes sells these weird stuff. Electro World is in Tropical Plaza upstairs. It's an audio place. Innovative Systems, they may have it. They have these weird stuff as well. You can also try PC Shop, which is Do you know where the art? You know where a building called the Art Center, not Olympia, but on Hope Road, this curvy building next to Sovereign. So you're heading to Halfway Tree. You know, why am I doing this? I can just bring up Google Maps, actually.
So was this the first place you referred to before Innovative Systems?
Electro World. No, in terms of order, I would go to Innovative System first, because that is closer to you. That is closer to UTech at least. I'm not sure where you are.
I'm in Garden Town, so yes, very close to Papine.
Right, good. So right. So Innovative Systems, so you're traveling down Hope Road. So the first place is Innovative Systems, which is in Sovereign. If it's not there, just come back on Hope Road and travel down a little further till you reach this building here. That's this one here, which is next to, what is it next to? It's next to, I can't make out this building. What building is this? But here is PC Shop. I mean, you can Google it. I can like send you the link. So PC Shop is the next stop. If PC Shop doesn't have it, then you continue down to Halfway Tree. And then you go into the mall, one of these mall, Tropical Plaza. In Tropical Plaza, there's a couple places you can check. So there is Electro World. Oh, there is Runrick. I would put Runrick before Electro World. Runrick, they sell electrical components. They may have it. Runrick is in Kings Plaza, so that is further down the road, but it's along that same strip. So Runrick, Electro World, then that new place that just opened that sell like drones and cell phones. I don't remember what it named. I think, is it this? No. What is it called? It's called like cellular something. I can't remember, but it is, where is it? Yes, it is right here. It is right beside Pizza Please. It's like right. Quantum, right? That's it. Quantum. They sell some interesting electrics. Quantum Concepts, right?
Okay.
Pricey.
Yeah, them pricey. Yeah, and then of course there's Royal. I mean, you would check Royal and KG's. Actually, I would put KG's after PC Shop. KG's probably have it. Yes, KG's is a classical store. It's been around like since my father was going to school. KG's has been there, so they have like good stuff. KG's is right beside Tasties, right? So yeah, you have about 5 or 6 places, but you know, I've never really seen these batteries before. I didn't even know they existed. All right.
So,
Yeah.
one last question.
So you say,
How to change the size of the fill?
okay, remember to change the size of the fill, you just simply change your rotate tool to the scale.
Yeah,
right.
I remember.
Right, and then you double click it and make sure that you only change the pattern.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. There's like so much other stuff that Illustrator can do. And there are some crazy people that use Illustrator to do some stuff that you just have to shake your head. They use dots and lines and they create some stuff and you just say, wow, there's no way I would sit down and do that. But, you know, there are people who looked at you guys doing your architecture work and say, there's no way I would sit down and do that either. So to each his own. All right. So as much as you don't want to see me go, remember, you can always pop in the second class if there's something that you're not sure of and you rather ask me. Other than that, I will see you on Monday where we will discuss pixels, sizes, and how to not how to avoid blurry, how to know if an image will come out blurry when you print it. It looks nice and sharp on your screen, but when you print it, it looks horrible. So we'll talk about how you get that done. All right. I shall see you. I'll see you around. Right? Until next time. As soon as it's finished encoding, I'll upload it to the site. Bye and stay safe.
Salam.
Bye.